Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Mindset. And today, uh, by my standards, we have a guest who really is unstoppable. One of the things that I hear regularly from people who talk to me about my own experiences of being in the World Trade Center is it's amazing what you went through and how you survived and you're resilient and all that. I I don't tend to think a whole lot about that. I understand what people are saying, but our guest today, Raheem Lindsey, I think has a much more resilient and unstoppable story than I do. A lot of people might disagree, but that's okay. We're both unstoppable, and I think most people are more unstoppable than they think they are. It's just that we tend to underrate ourselves. But we're going to hear a great story today, and I know Raheem's got a lot to tell us. So, Raheem, let's start by welcoming you to Unstoppable Mindset.
Thank you, Michael. Such a pleasure and an honor to be a guest on your podcast. It's really an honor. I couldn't believe that you actually had reached out to me when you did. I was like, really? Just very flattered because just to have accomplished the feats that you have, and you're a definition of relentless living, which is the name of my online ministry, Relentless Living. Refusing to take no for an answer,
Right.
seeing life's obstacles as opportunities, things of that nature, right? That resilience, that grit, that fortitude that we all have, but we have to be willing to embrace in order to go forward in life.
Right. I agree. Well, tell me what does Raheem mean?
It means merciful one.
There you go.
Yes,
So
sir.
you're committed right from the name.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And it's funny that you asked that, Michael, because in totality, so Raheem Lamar Lindsey, so in totality, it means merciful one, one who establishes a deep connection, which very well fits me, defines me to a T.
Cool. Well, and I'm really looking forward to hearing a lot more about that. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit about kind of the early Raheem growing up and I know that that's an integral part of your story as you get a little bit older, if you will, but tell us about you growing up and all that.
Okay. So Raheem growing up, I like to tell individuals, friends, etc., that I'm I'm well I'm well diverse when it comes to my growing up as a young man into adulthood. I have a mixed upbringing. I was raised with my mother, right, and then I was actually let's start here. I was born in Houston, Texas. I left there as an infant, okay, and as an infant. I was hospitalized because I was born premature at 6 months years old. I mean, at 6 months old, rather.
What did
And
you weigh?
so I weighed, oh my goodness. Oh, I was I 6 pounds or so?
Oh, you
Is
weren't
that
too
about
bad.
right?
I was born premature about 2 months, and I weighed 2 pounds 13 ounces, so I was a little kid.
Okay. And it might be less than that, actually, just to be honest with you, Michael. It's been quite some time. I would have to ask my mother to
You don't remember,
give
huh?
the accuracy, right? But um, but long story short, though, and that's really amazing that we have that. That's another connection that we have, as well as being, individuals that are resilient, that are relentless, right? And so I was hospitalized in the incubator
Mm-hmm.
for the first, I believe, what 2 months of my life. I had to
Mm-hmm.
be fed through an IV in my head, actually. So it was a very tough time
But
for
you weren't
for an
one of
infant.
those people who lost eyesight because you were in an incubator.
Oh my goodness! So your journey has been from birth.
Right.
Okay, wow, wow, come on,
Well,
wow.
the issue is that medical science, when I was born, wasn't ready to believe, although some doctors were starting to recognize it and say it, but most doctors were not ready to admit that even too much oxygen could be a bad thing. And the
Yes,
result was that the retina didn't develop properly, but that didn't happen for everyone. But they also eventually did figure it out. And so a lot of times children aren't necessarily given an absolute pure oxygen environment nowadays for 24 hours a day. It just depends on what they weigh and what's needed. And it can still be that a person could lose eyesight if they're in an incubator with a pure oxygen environment, but medical science understands it a lot more now. So it doesn't happen like it did back in the 1950s, where we actually, because of the number of premature births, lowered the average age of blind people from 67 to 65 years just because of premature births.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. Wow.
So
Those
anyway,
are
you were put in an incubator for a while.
yes. No. I was put in the incubator for a while, and so I went through that opportunity of resilience. It started at a young age for us both, right? I don't want to say an issue. I don't like to really use that word. I say
Right.
opportunities for growth and development, right? Because while we might have had an area of concern, let's say that it enabled us in other ways, right? It made us more resilient, more built for the race, right? To go forth in the future, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. So in the incubator, and then raised with my mother, of course, up until the age of 7, right? Now, here's where my life begins to take another dramatic turn. My mother at the time was battling a crack addiction. God bless her heart.
Mm.
Okay. But much respect to her. I never lost not 1 ounce of respect for her because she always remained a mother to me.
Mm-hmm.
Even uh, facing those odds, right? Facing the adversity of that, she still remained a mother, and I appreciate that. And so, with my mother, um, while being a Christian woman, a woman of faith, as I am a Christian man myself, she was still she was a believer, but also still in the world,
Mm-hmm.
not fully transitioned, as most of us have. We all go through that time in our lives where we're still, trying to make that full transition. And matter of fact, honestly, we will always be in the event and the race of transition throughout our entire lives because we'll never have it fully correct or know everything for that matter, right? So, anyhow, my mother, she was battling a crack addiction at the moment, and so I had a family member that ended up calling Child Protective Services on my mother, an older cousin. So I ended up going into the foster care system. I was in the foster care system for around just under a year, I'd say 7 to 8 months. During this time, while in the foster care system, I was beaten and molested, all while staying right next door to a cousin. But at the time, I'm only 7, going into 8 years old.
Right.
So for me, as much as I wanted to reach out and I wanted to make this known, I felt I felt conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'm still an adolescent, right? I'm still a child, and
Yeah, and you
so
don't
I'm
know
like,
how to, you don't have the tools yet to really deal with that.
absolutely, yes, exactly. Not having the tools yet necessary to deal with that circumstance. So I was very reclusive, and I never mentioned it to anyone. So about, let me see, 7, 8 months was my stay there. My aunt Andrea, my great aunt, ended up getting custody of me, which is my mother's aunt, my great aunt, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up getting custody of me. Now, once again, mentioning my mother was always in a very deep rooted transition, both battling addiction and just her personal life itself, and also being a woman of faith. So, my mother, my upbringing with her was not as structured as, say, it should have been, but I grew up. My mother cared and she was very hands on, but yet and still, she was a single parent. And
Mm-hmm.
so I grew up in the streets a bit, if you
Mm.
will. Okay.
Your father wasn't around at all.
No, my father
Okay.
was not around at all.
Okay.
Uh, and a funny story mentioning the father. He was in my life up until about 4 years old. And then my mother and him had separated, and they were, in other relationships, whatever have you. And I went to visit him one day. My mother took me to visit him, and he asked me, "Hey, who's your dad?" Now, me not having a normal, typical, constant relationship with seeing him on a regular basis, I say my wife, I'm sorry, my mother's boyfriend at the time. And so kind of all hell broke loose with that. He wanted nothing else to do with me. Keep in mind, I'm only 4 at the time.
Right, right.
So from
Understand.
that point, yes. So from that point forward, he was out of my life. Okay. So now we fast forward back again to getting in custody with my aunt. My aunt has gained custody of me after getting out of the foster home. So with my aunt Andrea, my great aunt, with her, the home is very structured. It's just me and her. Her only child, which is my older cousin, Todd, he's in the Air Force, whatever have you. He's in his mid 20s at the time.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay. And so it's just me and my aunt Andrea. So with her, very structured. Sunday, church, Sunday evening, church, Wednesday, youth night, church. If church was open, we were attending. And it wasn't enough to just attend, we had to be operating, we had to be serving in some capacity. So I was involved in, the youth choir. Um, any and everything that had to do where we could serve in the church, we were doing it. And so that helps create kind of an illustration, if you will, a visual of who Raheem is. I'm both one who is street smart, also one of I love to seek intel. I love to read. I am a avid reader, so forth and so on. That was very much encouraged within the household with my aunt. Uh, so she very much stressed those areas. I was made to memorize scripture and so forth in her household, things of that nature, got involved in activities outside of school, baseball, things of that nature. So that helps bring you to who I am today as of Relentless Living, to kind of give you a quick synopsis, if you will, because I know we like to talk about some other topics and so forth. But that gives you a bit of my background and who I am. So I tell people I'm very textured for that matter.
Mm-hmm. So, um, what did you do school wise then as you were growing up?
School wise, so I went through, the elementary and so forth as everyone else does. I ended up dropping out my senior year. I dropped out.
Mm.
Reason being, I was working, obtained a full-time job, and I was kind of in that time, as most of us are, exploring the world, getting to know myself as a young man and a young adult, if you will. So there's the girl aspect, right? Then there's, hey, Raheem's now, I have a job. So I'm bringing in my own finances. So I have responsibility of self, and also being back in the presence of my mother, because my mother gained custody of me again after about 3 to 4 years with my aunt. So she overcame her crack addiction and also regained custody of me. So kudos to her. So being back in the presence of my mother, she always instilled responsibility upon me. She's very big on that. So I would be responsible for, say, a particular bill. Maybe it was the electricity bill. Obviously not as high as they are now, right? The economy's
Yeah.
changed, everything's changed, so not as much, right? Now we're talking, hundreds of dollars, when then it was like, hey, maybe 150, for the light bill, no big deal. So, and those things just helped me to learn about responsibility at a early age as a young man, setting me up also for future success, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
School. So I dropped out, like I said, 12th grade year. I got in a little bit of trouble. I always had a great head on my shoulder. Always had great values and morale. But as we all know, bad nature or bad company corrupts good nature. Bad company corrupts good nature. And so it is not enough to simply do well on your own. It was never meant for us to do anything simply on our own because you can't be great alone. It takes a team. It takes a strategic alliance of a group of individuals. It may be somewhat semi-minute. It could be larger depending upon the need and the desire and the vision itself. But you cannot be great yourself. It takes a team. And so I tended to, I would do well for such a period of time. I was always very much into church, but then there's that street side of Raheem, and I have some street friends. So therefore, I would find myself regressing, or rather say digressing from the progress that I've made because of my choice of friends. Now, not all of them were in the streets per se. Others were doing well and focused on the future and doing and accomplishing great things on the positive note. But there's that conflict, right? I've got this internal conflict because my homeboys, and so forth from my mother's end of, the spectrum, we're in the streets, we're products of the environment, right? And it's very easy to become a product of your environment and then also to get to a point where you sever some of those relationships, not because that's so you're too good, because you've outgrown such a thing and you've been outside of the environment. So if you see better, logically and hopefully, we will then do better. So it was conflicted. So I got in a bit of trouble, throughout my childhood and young adulthood, from I'd say the time of 14 to oh goodness, mid 20s, maybe about 26, 27. I would, I do well. And then I would have a issue, with the law. There was times when I was younger, I, broke into homes, things of that nature. And it would be quite, I would even say like quite unexpected to those who knew me and had relationships with me because I was I was a great person. I really was, good morale, good values, things of that nature. But when I got around the wrong company, then there we have it. Now Raheem is no longer who I know to be, but I'm who I was, or the tainted version of Raheem, and not the more fulfilled, um, better version of Raheem, for lack of better terms. So I went through, in and out the system for a while. I've been, in the county jails. I did a year in the penitentiary at one point in time. But I saw this to say, for anyone that has battled such things, no matter what it is, do not despise it because of those situations, it has helped make me who I am today. So I'm able to help other individuals who have battled or are in the same storms as I face. And I stand today before you as a victorious over those circumstances, adverse situations, and so forth. And so what nearly killed me in situations for yourself, Michael, what nearly, killed you, things that you thought were nearly impossible to get out of, challenges that we faced, so much adversity that caused so much pain, that caused us to have to be resilient because we had no other choice.
Right.
Right? What nearly killed us, now we can reach back and bring life unto others because we were able to overcome it. But I have to go here because me being a man of faith, I will say, not by our power nor our strength, but by God's Spirit, thus saith the Lord. Because of that, because ourselves, we're not capable of such things on our own. We're just not. It would be insane to think that we could do the things that we have accomplished, and furthermore, that we will accomplish going forward without a divine entity, without divine help. Because some things are simply limited to the carnal existence of being.
Did you ever finish high school?
So great question, Michael. So when I was in the penitentiary for a year, I actually ended up getting my GED. So
Okay.
I came up, I had the mindset like, you know what? If I'm going to be here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the system against itself. So, okay, I'm going to be here. You'll pay for my education. I'm going to better myself while I'm here. I'm not going to, be depressed and be in this slump of a mind state and existence of being. No, I'm going to better myself and come out with a vengeance to succeed and be a better version of Raheem 2.0.
Did you ever go into college after you got out of the penitentiary and all that?
Absolutely, yes, I did.
Hmm.
I did not finish, not because I could not because I didn't have the intellect. Just simply, I didn't have the motivation to
Mm-hmm.
stay in tune with it
Hmm.
because and now seeing hindsight's 2020, it wasn't my purpose, wasn't connected to my purpose. Granted,
Right.
it's added
Okay.
value to who I am and helped me to find my purpose, but it wasn't my purpose. So I ended up going to college for business administration for a little under a year, Phoenix University online.
Okay.
And then another time I went for personal training. I've always been a fitness head, so forth and so on. So I love, to have, a good overall health along with, a good mindset, so forth, mind, body, spirit, right?
Right. So what did you do then, from a job or profession standpoint, to support yourself?
Okay. So throughout those times, a lot of times I delved in sales. I'm very much a people person. So being a store manager at one point in time of
Hmm.
GNC,
Okay.
telemarketing, oh my God, an array of things. Usually having to do with retail. Because like I said, once again, I'm very much a people person. I'm an introvert, but I'm an extrovert, but I'm an introvert when it comes to my issues. I don't share a lot of my issues with
Yeah,
individuals.
that's fine.
Mhm.
Okay. So you did a lot of sales,
Yes.
and I think that's a very honorable profession, having been in sales for many years in my life as well.
Okay.
What did sales teach you? How did it help you grow as an individual?
Sales taught me how to be a great consumer because in order to be a great salesman, you need to consume the needs of others. What's, why, who, when, where. A lot of that I will say in part I learned from GNC because when you're trying to sell, I don't sell. I like to build relationships and a rapport.
Hmm.
So henceforth, once again, the who, what, why, when, where. Why are you doing these things? What are you doing this for? When do you plan on achieving the goal that you want, et cetera, et cetera. So being a great consumer helps you to be a great salesman because then you make it personal when you ask these questions.
Well, yeah, and um, you also learn how to be a good communicator if you're doing a decent job.
Yes, as well. Absolutely.
I unexpectedly ended up going into sales, but I've learned those same basic tenets and those same basic things. And the reality is, you learn to be a good communicator, and you also learn that ultimately good salespeople really don't sell anything. First of all, the customers really got to want to buy it, and the
Right.
good salespeople guide customers to find what it is they really need. And I know I've had situations where my product wouldn't do what the customer wanted. And the last thing I would want to do would be to, and I probably could have done it, convince them to buy my product anyway, even though it might not do everything, because I knew that'd come back to bite me.
Yes, absolutely, Michael. I so concur. Touching on that real quick. So exactly the same thing with me, right? I would never sell a individual on something just because it was the item of the week, so to speak, right? We would have conference calls. And so we have, one item, maybe two items for the week that were the main point of sale. Make sure that we're pushing this item to each and every customer. While I would offer that, I was more in tune and cared about what they needed and what they wanted. So
Right.
those questions we spoke about briefly here just a moment ago. And so by doing that, as you said, you develop a rapport and trust. They trust you now because they know that you're just not going to give them any product, sell them any product just for the sake of the monetary gain. But we want you to get what you truly need. We want to make sure that your needs are met. And so they'll come back. And that's how you establish, long-term jeopardy and long-term relationships with customers. And then customers become friends, clients, and there you have it. And that's how you establish it and build from there.
Did you
Absolutely, what you said.
did you ever have situations where your boss is wanting you to sell a product and you knew that it wasn't going to be what a particular customer wanted? Did you ever have some discussions or conversations with your bosses about that kind of thing?
Did I ever have a conversation with them about that? Hmm. Indirectly. Indirectly. Uh, that usually it went over well. Uh, Once again, it's not about what you say, but it's how you say it, right, Michael? So I would say, what ifs? What if I have a customer that is not in need of this particular product, but I mention it to them? So I'm still doing my job, right? I'm still doing as directed by the superiors.
Hmm.
So I'm asking, what do you think about this product? Now, here's the funny thing though, when we're dealing with, GNC, right? So it's vitamins. There's a lot of things that complement the other. So sometimes, while not really pushing that specifically, I would say, hey, based upon your needs, I recommend this. But just so happens, only if it was applicable, this product here will enhance your will enhance the results that you're looking for. And so I would present that to my superiors, my manager, because I was a store manager myself at my own store. So
Hmm.
I would present that to them, and they would say, "Okay, Raheem, hey, as long as you're mentioning the product and you are pushing the product to some extent, that's fine."
Okay.
So that ended up working out for me.
Right. So how long did you sell for GNC?
GNC, I sold for a little over a year. I enjoyed that. That's one of my favorite jobs. One of my most favorite jobs that I've ever had was GNC. Just being able to serve, being able to serve, Michael, is my thing. Um, I find myself when I'm not able to serve others, I'm not content.
Right.
I'm not. I don't even feel miserable at times because I really live to serve. I have the heart of a servant.
So what did you do after GNC?
After GNC, let's see here. After GNC, I was in restaurant for a minute. I worked at Five Guys Burgers as a store manager there. Also, I'm an entrepreneur. I started a fried ice cream business.
Oh,
Yes, absolutely. So fried ice cream, the first of its kind, right, ever put into pints and gallons.
okay.
So I started that myself back in 2017. The funny way that that even came about was I had lost my job building house trusses. Okay, so I've also done construction, which I'm in now currently. I do construction, I do concrete right now. But in this season of time, at the age that I am, I'll be 44 in August. Everything is about purpose. Everything is about purpose. And I feel the Lord definitely pulling me more into that direction and being more in tune with that. So, henceforth, opportunities like this to be on this podcast, this is in alignment with purpose. But anyhow, so 2017, I started the ice cream. I fried ice cream, led me into being into retail for myself. I was in the mall twice. I had a few partnerships with a few local restaurants and so forth and so on. I was supposed to be on food Carnival Foods, but I ended up missing that. I had oh my God, I had some meeting of some sort. I ended up missing that. So I fried ice cream was actually supposed to be on Carnival Foods on Food Network. So we make quite a bit of feats and accomplishments with that. So there's that. And then I've also, like I said, the construction, telemarketing. Um, my gosh, what else have I done? Probably more sales. And like I said, most recent, I'm in concrete construction. I've been doing that over the last 3 years. And so that kind of brings you to current. But I'm kind of growing quite weary of it just because I know that I have a story, I have a message. Uh, there's some things that God has put on my heart to teach as a minister, as a servant, as an evangelist. So many things that I'm that wrap up and make up Raheem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't put one title on myself
Right.
because the Lord has allowed me and enabled me to be many things due to what I've endured throughout my life has given me that variation of existence.
So tell me more about what you're looking at in terms of being an evangelist and so on, what you're moving toward and what you think you're going to do.
So, well, I'll say right now over the last oh my God, probably see three going well no 4 years. Let's say 4 years. Online ministry has been my go-to. My YouTube channel, very much Relentless Living Online Ministries, where I do reels, so forth and so on. Really wanting to, I want to do much more than just give a word. But in today's society, you kind of draw them in more with the short term. Short term memory is very very dominant anymore. We're not as much as consumers as we once were, and I think that's just due to the way of the AIs and technology and so forth. It's made mankind a bit lazy if you let it. If you let it. Now it's also very innovative and creative, and it challenges us to go further in our mindset, our cerebral capacity, and so forth. So it can make you lazy if you allow it, but at the same time, it can challenge you and allow you to express yourself in new ways and insight and creativity if you let it, such as myself, yourself, others, etc. So, but um, just teaching others how to understand the word more, also showing truth and revelation through the word that applies to your everyday life, that will inspire, that will encourage and edify you. And then also helping you to be able to build business from it, which I've done, and and coaching and things of that nature. It's such a variation of it, but all stemming from what I shared earlier, which is, well, I didn't completely share, but I like to call it my relentless living pyramid. And the base of it is being a consumer. The middle of it, servant. And the peak is leadership, being a leader. But the most important is being a great consumer. Because in order to be a great leader, you must first be a great consumer, take in the needs, evaluate the needs of others, do an assessment, if you will, right? And then based upon that, we can better serve who our demographic is, our tribe is, right? And then as we prove ourselves, we develop a rapport, friendships, so forth and so on. And now there's trust. And when there's trust, people allow you to lead them. And then in order to remain a great leader, I like to call a servant leader, because the greatest leaders are servant leaders. Because a great leader has to be a servant to remain a leader. And so you repeat that process in order to remain relevant, whether it's in marriage, business, school, you name it. The relentless living pyramid applies for every facet of life. So, in that space alone allows me, I see myself speaking engagements, um, coaching, leadership development. There's so much that comes from that space in that pyramid because it applies to everything. And I've been through a lot. If I haven't been through it myself personally, I know someone close to me who has. So that's the great thing about acknowledging and knowing from what you've come from and not despising it, but instead seeing that as a vehicle of momentum, as long as you have changed and learned from your mistakes, right, to become better, that has actually added value because now you can teach others where you did not fail at because you got through it. So remember that God brings you to it to bring you through it. The storm that you face today is not to kill you, it's not to stop you, but it's meant to propel you because you are eagles. We are eagles. Eagles fly with the storm. They fly towards the storm and use the momentum of the storm to carry them into their next destination. For us, purpose. So do not see the storm as a opposition. See it as a opportunity for growth, development, pruning.
So you emphasize faith a lot.
Yes.
Tell me more about faith and how you define it. And another question I would ask is, what role do you believe that faith plays in discovering your purpose?
Okay.
It's a lot of questions there.
Okay. Yes, no, absolutely. Okay. I'll start with the last one because I remember that one best. So okay, what role does faith play in finding purpose? Correct, Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with this. I guess maybe I could call it my mantra for Relentless Living Ministries. And this will sum it up, and then I will go into more in depth. Live in pursuit of your God given purpose, and then you will find life and life more abundantly.
But how do you find your purpose?
Okay, so how do you find your purpose? I want to start here. I believe for myself speaking, I believe you have to incorporate God because how can you find purpose if you do not include the one who created you with a purpose? For he himself, I believe, is the purpose. So now further going even more in depth, finding purpose, going through the obstacles, going through the storms. So me going through being in the system as a young adult, me going through being in the foster care system as a child, me going through being beaten and molested, me going through being the black sheep of the family, me going through at times being deserted. Okay, sometimes not being liked, not because of who I am, but because of who I am, because of the light that is in me, because of my faith, because of my belief, right? So being facing the trials and the tribulations, each and everything that you face and that you overcome helps establish you into walking into your divine purpose. I believe that your divine purpose is based upon everything that you have overcome. Because most of us, as a matter of fact, I can almost guarantee all of us in some way, shape, or form, what we have gone through has helped shape our future. It's inevitable. What we go through helps to shape our future. That's why decisions are so important. The decisions that we make today will affect our tomorrow. So everything that I've gone through in my past has purposed me to be able to help those that are in the same situation that I face to help them overcome. Like I said, what nearly killed us, what nearly killed the individuals that will be watching this podcast, that they've endured the trials, the hardship, carrying their own cross, if you will. But yet they survive, yet they're victorious. It's a reason why you're victorious. So you had to become what you were meant to save, so to speak. For those that are, men and women of faith, everybody knows Jesus, our Lord and Savior. Okay, I'm just going to go here. Scripture says, he who knew no sin became sin. You have to become what you want to overcome. You have to go through what you are meant to overcome. Because if you don't endure it, you can't overcome it. There is no testimony without the test. Going here, being chosen, right? And being chosen I believe, is part of purpose because you're chosen for a something. We're chosen for a someone, in marriage, right? There's a someone we're chosen for that we choose. They choose us. So everyone wants to be chosen. Everyone wants to be the one until they find out how much it costs. Because to be chosen, it will cost you something, and it will cost you everything to be chosen. It's cost you a lot, Michael, to be the man who you are today. It didn't just drop off the sky to you. It wasn't just fed to you. You had to endure some things, some hardships, some struggles. But you turned them into opportunities nonetheless. This is why you stand here today as the strong man that you are, because you never gave up. You remained relentless in the face of adversity.
So, how do people learn to recognize that and learn to recognize whether they're making the right choices?
Okay, great question. So, how do people learn to recognize that? I think the recognition is easy when we take ourselves out of the equation and we look at it from a broader scope and stop looking at why me, like in the victim perspective, and think why me. So the why me, the second why me, is why am I enduring this? There has to be a reason for this. Now, some things are self-inflicted, and some things happen. Life happens. But even within that, there's always a lesson to be learned. Always a lesson to be learned if we want to evolve. Now, the lesson's there, whether we like it or not, but we have to choose to want to see it, or we can be naive and we can neglect the fact that this has happened, and we can play the victim in every world in every role, or we can choose to see that, hey, I'm victorious. I did overcome this, whether it's self-inflicted or just life happened. But the easy way to know about these things are, I think, every experience will increase the knowledge of the knowing.
But I
Okay.
think what I'm getting at, I think, is that in reality, until you are willing to stop and analyze and look at what you're doing, look at what's happened, look at why it's happened, and listen to your inner voice, if you will,
Yes.
that guides you, until you're willing to do all of that, it's really very difficult to find out what your purpose ought to be or how you should proceed. And that's the thing that most people don't do, is take
Yeah.
the time to be self-analytical.
Come on. Absolutely, Michael. I agree 100%. Absolutely. We don't take the time to be self-analytical. Uh, and that it takes courage to do that, because sometimes we don't want to look at the reflection that's in the mirror. We'd rather, cast the judgment, or the it's someone else's fault. Place someone else at fault. The situation's fault. Oh, I'm always, the innocent one. But yet, at most times, if we're really honest with ourselves, we are our own worst enemy.
Mhm.
And it's very unfortunate. And so that's why it's very necessary to confront ourselves on a daily basis and hold ourselves accountable so that we can have positive growth and development. Because where there's accountability, there's also confrontation, whether it's with yourself or can be with others. Now, confrontation is good. There's good confrontation and bad confrontation, but ultimately, confrontation is good, because confrontation, there has to be something confronted. Until something is addressed, then we cannot we can't cover it. We can't address it unless it's been spoken of, unless it's been brung up,
Right.
right? We have to address it. So with that comes the accountability, and so accountability requires being uncomfortable.
Well, or it requires that you recognize that there are lessons to be learned,
Absolutely.
and you go out and recognize that you're going to be your best teacher and that you need to learn them. How do people overcome self-doubt when they're when they're going through life and so on. How do you get beyond all the self-doubt? I think we've talked about it some, but I'm curious
Mhm.
to see if you want to add to that.
Absolutely. I'd love to, Michael. So, overcoming self doubt. At some point in time in life, and there's been a few times for every single individual, you have overcame something that you thought was nearly impossible. Because if you didn't, each and every one of us wouldn't be where we are today. Now, we could all be obviously maybe doing a bit better, but could always be a lot worse. So we discover um oh, I'm sorry, I lost train of thought. Repeat that one more time. I'm so sorry, Michael.
I was just asking how people deal with and how do you overcome self-doubt to be able
Okay,
to advance and move forward?
okay. So overcoming the self-doubt. Remember that, you know what? I have to go. I have to go here. I have to go here. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. This is how I help myself, and I hope that it helps all of us. It will help all of us.
Say that
If,
once
if-
more.
Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world.
Okay.
So you could, some people may, it might be the inner voice. For me, it's God, Jesus,
Same
each their
thing.
own. Right.
Same thing.
Okay. Same thing. Right. What does the inner voice say about you? What does God say about you? You are fearfully and wonderfully made in God's image. See, this thing here, the flesh, the carnality, will always feed you the lies because you'll always see just what is in front of you. But the inner voice is what gives you vision, right? So when you have vision, when you're looking outside the physical parameter of things, you see the greater. Okay, and you learn to see yourself by the inside voice. The inside voice says that you're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. Through Christ Jesus, you can do all things. You are great. You are amazing. You are wonderful. These things, you are the victor, no longer the victim. Okay, you are the head, not the tail. These are the things, the positive things that are truth that are said about you, said about me, each and every one of us. So when we learn to see beyond the present circumstance, and remember this, it's not always what it looks like, especially when it comes to yourself. Anything that is opposite of the positive things that have been spoken of you, that you know about yourself even, is a lie of the enemy. So you have to be willing to know the truth, willing to walk by faith and not by sight. I'll add this in. For faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. Faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So you may have been the drug addict. You may have been the alcoholic, but I see you as the doctor, as the lawyer, as the nurse, as the store manager, so forth and so on. We have to feed ourselves with the positivity, but the knowing who you are, for me, comes from the word. It's times I struggle with myself. I'm like, I don't think I'm the greatest person in the world. But then I have to go back and I reflect. I go back to the word. What does God say about Raheem? What does God say about you? That's the truth. Not the lies that the world may spill upon you and try to demonize your name and slander your reputation, assassinate your character. Not those things. That might have happened, but you are not that. So, seeing the greater in you, for me, and that I would share with anyone that I have the opportunity to encounter, you got to go back to what the inner says about you, the inner self, because the inner you is great, despite what you may go through on the exterior.
You
And what is
mentioned
inside will soon come outside. It will reflect.
you mentioned earlier the whole concept of being a servant leader. What is a servant leader?
A servant leader. A servant leader is one who obviously they I see them as being an empath of some extent. I think a great leader has to be empathetic because I believe you have to be empathetic in order to want to solve one's needs, to care about their needs. Now, it's one thing just to be in business, and this is what separates a servant leader from a leader. A leader may be great in sales and so forth and so on, right? and they're leading, but do they care? Are they gathering the intel of the consumers because of a want and a desire to change lives and to help others? So you have to be a great servant in order to be that great leader. And when you're a great servant leader, you serve based upon the needs of others. And that brings life into you by giving life unto others. By fulfilling their needs, you find your need being met. And you develop that trust and that relationship, and then you lead. But you lead not only to have that title, forget the title, it's not about the title, but you're led because you're called to lead, because the people trust you, and you have been enabled to, and you have the insight to, based upon being a great consumer. And you want to serve others. You have to be a servant. So consumer, servant, leadership. Once again, the pyramid kind of sums that up and gives you a synopsis of that. How being a great servant leader, you have to be all those things: consumer, servant leader, and then repeat in order to remain relevant. It can never be about you to be a great leader. It can never be about you. It has to be about the people whom you're serving, because the moment it becomes about you, it becomes singular. And if you're only there to help self, guess what? At some point in time, you may run out of needs. But when you're serving the capacity of many, there is always a need to be met. And not only that, you're operating in purpose. So I like to share with people this train of thought, if you will. Everyone's always, concerned about financials, right? Money, right? Not me. It's purpose. Because if you chase purpose, the money will follow. Chase your purpose. Because here's the thing. As scripture says, I'll go here once again. Money answereth all things. Now, some people may say initially and whatnot, oh my God, money, money, money. Right? For those that are, into the word, things like that, right? As myself, sometimes we get it misconstrued. They say, well, money is evil. No, it's not. It depends on whose hands it's in. The word says the love of money is the root of all evil. The love, when you love the money over the inner voice, over God, so forth, then it's the root of all evil, because people will do anything for money. But when you're operating on purpose, you're on divine assignment. It's bigger than you. And so money answers all things, right? But what happens when it's singular? It's just you. There's only so many needs one person can have. So there's no longer a call for the money to answer. And this is kind of an illustration, a parable, if you will. You pick up the phone, it's because someone called. Money answers all things. So there has to be a call in order for the money to answer, being a need, the call, a need for money to answer. But what happens when all your needs are answered as a one individual? It's done. But when you're operating out of purpose, your purpose outlives you. Purpose creates legacy, and purpose helps fulfill others other than yourself. So you're constantly on assignment. So therefore, you will always stay in motion.
So, how do you balance personal ambition and serving others?
Personal ambition and serving others. Wonderful question, Michael. Personal ambition and serving others, because it's why I'm here. It's my assignment, Michael. It's my purpose in life. As I mentioned earlier, I feel terrible when I'm not able to help others. I'd much rather give than receive any day, because I've been through so much, and I know what it's like to need and others have the wrong perspective of you and not want to help you based upon what somebody else has said. And it's the wrong narrative. It's the wrong story. It's a lie. And then some things may be a bit true. There's some things that, oh, well, yeah, that is true. But I'm not that. I'm not that individual anymore. That was a mistake that I made, but it does not define me. I know what it's like to be misunderstood. I know what it's like to be in need. That's why it's so good that I have went through and endured everything that I have in my life, because it's made me appreciative of help when it comes, and it's given me such a capacity with the void that has been left in me because of what I have endured to want to help others. And that's my purpose. It makes when I have a chance to speak into other people, I speak life into them. If I have the opportunity to help somebody financially, it's my pleasure. It's a duty because I know it's my assignment based upon everything that Raheem has went through. I went through and experienced homelessness. I've had a mother that was addicted to hardcore drugs. I've been in the system, both incarceration and as a child, being in the foster care and so forth. I've endured all these things. So it's given me a heart for people that are in the same situations. So it's not too many people, that themselves or don't know somebody directly close to them that hasn't been incarcerated, that hasn't been a victim of something in the system as a child, that hasn't had a close loved one that's battled an addiction, if not yourself, that hasn't went through homelessness, that hasn't been, rejected by the family, a black sheep or whatever have you, that, all those things and some. So I remember what it's like. And some of those things I still endure. And I'm like, all I want to do is to help and to love and to serve. If I do nothing else in life, I'm good with that. I'm fine with that because I know that's my purpose.
Well,
And
oh, go ahead.
yes.
All
And
right. Yeah, go ahead.
and so just knowing that, like I said, what you go through in life, ladies and gentlemen, what you go through in life, pay close attention. Hindsight is 2020. That is a part of your purpose, what you overcame. I promise you. A lot of people, how do I find purpose? How do I find purpose? It's not as hard as we make it. And I can promise, and I share this with so many people, and you're absolutely right. And if it doesn't lead directly, if it doesn't define purpose for you, it helps lead you to your purpose. So don't despise anything that you grow through, but yet please learn from it. Learn
Yeah,
from it
yeah.
and gain insight.
How do you think one can cultivate let me, yeah. How do you think that one can cultivate a servant leadership mindset in their lives?
By, I would say by first, you can't, it can't be about self. You can't be about self. Now, I will say this, okay, and it's not contradictory if you take it in the right state of mind, okay, and get what I'm saying and what I'm not saying. You have to be able to help yourself before you can help someone else because you cannot pour from an empty cup. But knowing that what's in the cup is for you and the overflow of whatever it may be, your anointing, your finances, your time, your energy, your space, the overflow, once your needs are met, is for others. So there's a time to think about self initially because you have to work and develop yourself. You have to fill yourself so that you have something to give. But then once the need is met, so I guess next would be when is the need met? Well, let's put it in this kind of illustration. Let's say you've got rent, right? This something everybody can relate to. You got rent, or you got your mortgage. The mortgage is paid, right? The electric's paid, but you got an exceedingly amount of financials left after that. Now you have to be wise. Always exercise wisdom, right? But after that, okay, well, I'm good. My needs met. I've got clothes on my back. There's gas in the car, etc., whatever. Now it is not good for you to hoard because God gives seed to the giver. Seed to the sower. You see, if you hold what you have in your hand, once again, dealing with singular possessiveness, right? It stays there. It goes no farther than where you set your feet. But the moment you open up your hand, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your hand? And you spread it, and then it multiplies, right? It multiplies. So it cannot be just about you. You have to get out of the self mindset But know that, yes, you have to be able to help yourself before you can help others. Once again, you can't pour from an empty cup. But after that, remove self from it and realize that everything that you've gotten, everything that you have obtained is by the grace of God.
Mhm.
Not simply what you've done. Because some things I'm quite sure if you look back, how in the world did I do that? And someone helped you. Like I said, we cannot be great by ourselves. So it takes a community, it takes individuals, it takes a unit and unity, right? So, how to go about that? Remove self out the equation and think, how can I serve in a capacity where I have been afflicted in my life, where I overcame? Because if you're a decent human being, by my beliefs, you will have a void in your heart, a concern in your heart, and you're drawn towards individuals who are going through what you went through because you remember what it was like. I wish I had someone who would have understood. I wish I had someone that would have spoken a kind word to me, said I love you when I needed it most, instead of turning their back on me, instead of opposed me. I wish someone would have lended a hand when I was short on the rent, short on the electricity bill. And yes, I was doing everything that I could. So, wow, to reflect back on those things should give you a heart of gratitude because obviously you were able to overcome it by some way. Someone gave you a hand. Somebody, everybody's had somebody help them.
And so
And
the
you may
thing
have
to
had more rejections than the help.
and so the
But
thing
for
to
that
do
one
is to
person, yes, please
and so the thing to do is to pay it forward.
pay it forward. Simply put, Michael,
Yeah.
yes. I'm sorry, I'm long winded at times. Forgive
Well,
me.
I hear you and I understand, and I appreciate all the things that you've said. If people want to reach out to you, how do they do that?
You can reach out to me. I'll start with email. That's Raheem Lindsey 81 at
Spell
gmail.com.
spell that for me if you would.
That's Raheem as in man, Lindsey, Lindsey 81 at gmail.com. Raheem
Okay.
Lindsey 81 at gmail.com.
Okay.
And then and you can reach out to me for whatever, speak, counsel, leadership, whatever it may be. Then also I have my YouTube channel, Relentless Living Online Ministries. It is exactly that, Relentless Living International Ministries on YouTube. You'll see this gorgeous face here.
Okay,
You
so the
have
name of the
that,
channel again is
Relentless Living.
Relentless Living Online.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Relentless Living Ministries on YouTube.
Okay.
Uh, and so, yeah, I have those two things there. And, if need further, then, I'm always free, to, give out my contact, which is more than welcome to utilize. I have no problem with that as well.
Well, I want to thank you for being here and giving people a lot of insight. I hope people will take it to heart. I've always been a great fan of the whole concept of servant leadership. I think it's extremely important. And I think any good leader is or should be a servant leader. Otherwise, you're missing a lot of the dimensions of what leadership is all about. So I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank everyone who was listening today for being here. Love to hear from you. Love your thoughts. Please email me at michaelhi@accessibe.com. Accessibe is spelled ACCESSIBE. So it's Michael, MICHAELHI at accessibe.com. And wherever you're listening, please give us a 5-star review for the podcast episode. We love it. We appreciate it. And we really do value all that you have to say to us and about us. If you know anyone who ought to be a guest on the podcast, and Raheem is well for you, if you know anyone else who ought to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you, or please give us an introduction to anyone who you think ought to be a guest. We're always looking for people because I think everyone has a story to tell. And the reality is, as Raheem has so greatly demonstrated today, we can deal with whatever circumstances come along but it's our choice to to deal with things, and we can choose to do it or not. That is up to us. And we
Absolutely.
can listen to God or not. That is up to us. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. And Raheem, I want to thank you once more for being here. This has been wonderful.
Absolute pleasure, Michael. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Once again, complete honor. I've enjoyed just your intellect, your wisdom, and the great questions that you've asked. Made for, I think, a great podcast session, as many others before me, as I've had the privilege of watching. So I thank you. God bless you, and continue doing what you're doing, being an inspiration, a great servant leader, and just an innovation to many, and inspiration and motivation.